Hello, hello. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. If you missed Monday's episode, highly recommend you check that out. This is sort of the supplemental episode to that. We're catching up on a couple things about the leaked audio between Pat Kraft and a number of Penn State football players. King Mack's response to that today when talking with reporters, as well as some additional information about Matt Campbell and his staff being on the recruiting trail. And any sort of additional notes that we have picked up over the last day and a half or so. Thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribed, whether you're watching live on YouTube or if you're listening on podcast platforms. Let's get right into it. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How you doing today, Shawn?
Doing good, Cory. Took the baby to go see Santa today, so that was fun. But yeah, doing pretty good, all things considered. How about you?
I'm doing very well. Glad you were able to go do that. I guess at that age, I guess Santa's kind of telling the baby what they're getting, right? And it's not two-way communication.
No, not at all. We were happy that she was kind of asleep the whole time, so there was
Excellent.
No crying at all. So we got some good pictures. So
fantastic. Yeah, that's it's like a bell curve. Like it's just gonna get more and more exciting for a while, and then it's just gonna you're on the up and coming.
I know. I'm happy Santa's back in our lives, though. I think it's pretty cool.
Also, Shawn, you should be happy that you beat me in the Big Ten Pick'em. The results came out officially yesterday. You ended up at 124. I ended up at 122. I went all or nothing with some very bold things. I thought maybe I could pull myself into a really good position if everyone else kind of did business as usual, and I went crazy. Maybe I could even win. Unfortunately, those things did not happen, and I had a terrible. So I think I'm the worst score of the week.
I bet you picked Michigan to beat Ohio State.
I don't think I did that, but I think I did take Washington to beat Oregon. Yeah.
If you're going bold, that's the one to pick.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, if you're going bold, Washington over Oregon, I could have definitely seen that happening, but I knew Michigan wasn't beating Ohio State this year.
Yeah. No, I felt pretty good about that. Shout out to the winners. C. Thomas, perfect score to get the dub in the first place win. Sole first place win. 133 was his score. He actually got runner up 2 years ago, I think. So he's back in the podium for 2 of the last 3 years, I believe. So shout out to C. Thomas there. The number one spot, Hardcore Penn State Football will be sending him and one person to a Penn State football game next year. So don't have the official schedule out yet. And so once that kind of gets released as far as the true dates and everything, we'll let him make that decision. But we'll be doing that for him and someone else that he would like to accompany them. Judy Seeley, who is a friend of mine, reach out to me. And I know you listen to the podcast. Reach out to me as we need to discuss your second place win, as well as Mark Thomas, who I know will reach out to us on Instagram probably, and Ankala Lyon. Mark Thomas and Ankala Lyon both got third. They tied for 131. Judy was solely in second with 132. And Judy was at the top pretty much the entire year. Very sustained. James Franklin will be proud of her consistency week in and week out. But those three have not reached out to me yet. So please do. I do need to talk to Rhett Koblitz, rhettkoblitz.com. If you need any graphic design work, you need to talk to Rhett. We need to discuss a merch store, getting that back open in the spring. So we'll probably do something like that for second, and then for the third place finishers as well. But I'm open to whatever they may want to do. But yeah, that will probably be the plan moving forward. Is we'll probably send the winner 2 tickets for a non-conference Penn State football game. That's kind of what I was thinking there. So anyway, congratulations to those. Thank you everyone for playing. I didn't tally it up as far as who put in an entry this year, but like if I did just quick gazing at it, I think we had like over 70 entries, at least with one person doing it. And a lot of people back off after they forget for 1 or 2 weeks, which is natural. But we probably had like 30 people. I think about 34 to 35 people were doing it at the very end. So we had about 35 people that pretty much did it the entire year. So that's pretty cool. I think that's definitely the most we've had consistently. A lot of people usually back off at the end. Shout out to all the people too that couldn't win and still kind of continued to do it. There's a couple of people like Jim who missed out a week and still continued to contribute, still continued to put in the work. But there's a lot of the Joe Rogers, another one like that, who actually dropped us a 5-star review, 2 5-star reviews ago. But so appreciate those people too. It's always fun because you may not be able to win. But I think looking at the week to week, just the last week's score is also fun. And so thank you guys for that. I wouldn't do it if I didn't have fun with it because it does take me about an hour every week to do it. But appreciate you guys. Appreciate it. It's fun to go against Sean, but it's also gives you guys a chance to show that you do know more than we do, which is very much true this year.
Yeah, and people that were in front of us were ahead of us by quite a bit. So those people that did it every week, great job by you, and also great job by Cory. Cory does that all himself. I don't really do much of anything except submit every week. So thank you, Cory, for doing that.
Not a problem. Yeah, it's fun. And honestly, shout out a little bit to Darian Summers as well. He did something like that, the pick'em, just with friends, probably like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even. So that's where the original idea came from. But really fun to participate in. And it's gotten crazier with and obviously more teams being added to the Big Ten. Welcome in SGTBB1. Says congrats on YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube, make sure to say hi. All right. I think that's all the housekeeping-ish items. Again, just make sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching. Just double check too. The only last housekeeping item, obviously after the Pinstripe Bowl, we will do our Hardee's end of the year award show. And so that will be another opportunity for you to vote and to be a part of the show. So that won't be going anywhere. I'm a little bit nervous about who may win what awards this year because it's not going to be probably a very diverse group. If I had to guess, I think every award's probably going to go to Katron Allen or to Zakee Wheatley, but nonetheless, we'll try to do it and we'll have some fun with it.
I think Vanga might rack up an award or two as well.
I think so too. All right. I want to start off with something fun, Sean, that I didn't tell you about. But if you didn't see, Penn State is officially the national champion in the 2025 Sickos Committee National Championship. Over 1,200 ballots were submitted to the Sickos Committee, and Penn State got the most votes. It was Penn State followed by Duke, UMass. Let's see if I can see some of these others on here. Lane Kiffin was in 4th, FSU 5, UNC 6. And it gets more and more funnier as you kind of go through those. But if you don't pay attention to the Sickos, they're pretty fun. They're looking for kind of the weird things that make college football and college sports in general fun and the amateurism part of it. So definitely recommend you check them out, Sickos Committee on X. They will also be hosting or holding a state college food drive because Penn State won. So that's also really cool as well. So shout out to them for that. Usually Iowa wins and Iowa's offense. I think a couple years ago, Brian Ferentz won. So like that's kind of stuff that they're going for. And Penn State obviously well-deserved this year as far as how the season went.
Yeah, it was One of the words that you would use to describe it is weird, and it sounds that's how that's measured. And college football is a strange sport, and Penn State really fits that mold this year. That's one way to put having the most disappointing season maybe in school history. But at least we won a national championship in something, guys.
That's right. There's a lot of great. They include every also receiving votes in there, which is really funny because there's all sorts of funny stuff like Message Board Geniuses made it on there. U.S. Open Cup made it. LeBron James, LA Galaxy, like just random stuff. But if you're into that, which I do like a little bit, I dabble in that.
You know who my vote would have been though? Lane Kiffin.
Yeah,
I think Lane Kiffin, with everything that happened with him and Ole Miss, them going to the first playoff, their first playoff in school history, he leads them on for a month publicly. He got mad at a reporter that called him a hoe, and then he ends up leaving LSU and shows that he was not a housewife. He was, in fact, the guy was actually kind of right. He was a hoe after all.
It's incredible to me because they literally reached their goal of what they wanted to do, and he left. I mean, that's just wild. Lane Kiffin has not changed at all.
And Cory, we texted about this. Ole Miss is a perfect job for Lane Kiffin. I think because Ole Miss is kind of new money. And he fits that because he would be the standard because he's a bit of a quirky guy. Now he's going to go to Ole Miss, LSU, where that's all old money, man. Like his act could wear thin very, very, very quickly. And his act has worn thin quickly at Tennessee, at USC, and with the Raiders.
And Ole Miss did pony up quite a bit to compete in the NIL world. And they would have built statues for him. They would have named things after him if he would have stayed there for the rest of his tenure. So, you know what, though? Sometimes, people like that just continue to chase. Shawn, do me a favor. If you can tilt your camera down just a smidgen. The one thing that I was surprised by on this Sickos committee, Sharon Moore was not on this list. And maybe they kept him off on purpose, but very surprised that he wasn't higher on that list, which I would be surprised if they didn't allow him on the list. But very, very surprised that Sharon Moore didn't make it on there.
Yeah, I think just with not only did, the whole thing with his executive assistant happen, I think the arrest kind of made it go from like a ha-ha to situation really, really quick. And, I was just talking about this with my wife's family, and it's insane to me to see somebody throw everything away, not just his job, but his family, over an assistant.
Wild.
Sad, strange situation.
I mean, we expect our audience listeners to do that for this podcast if necessary. But otherwise, yeah, super weird. Will Gamble is in the chat. He says for the Hardee's Award, Dom DeLuca wins Italian of the Year award. Maybe.
Well, we got to see how Dominic Rulli plays in the Pinstripe Bowl, because Nick Dawkins might be opting out. I don't know for sure, but if he does, Dom Rulli might be your center.
Yeah, and I want to talk about opt-outs too, because I thought Traber Pena said something very good today. But before we get to that, we want to catch up a little bit on the whole Pat Kraft thing, the audio leak. And just because King Mack spoke about it today, and I thought hammered it home perfectly. But I want to start with like what exactly, I'm not going to obviously show all 30 minutes that was recorded, but there was a meeting between Pat Kraft and approximately 8 Penn State football players. That was obviously supposed to be a private conversation, and was recorded and then released at a time where Penn State still didn't have a Matt Campbell as their head coach. The cliff notes, just very quickly. He spoke candidly about where State College is and being in the middle of nowhere, PA, and the hurdle they have to overcome and what that really has to, what they have to do to get there. talking about how much harder it is than in Ohio State and Columbus, and how much easier Ohio State has it. Spoke a lot about, and I thought this was interesting, Sean. The ways in which NIL uses at other schools, where not everybody's getting a piece of the pie. Just the best players are getting it, and maybe you're talking about half the team getting paid, versus what James Franklin's approach was, where he wanted all of the players to get some sort of money, and there was a little bit more of maybe a little socialism involved with everyone being paid. Talked a lot about how close they are. I think a lot of that would if you listen to it, really resonated with the fans, at least that portion of it. Talked about Oregon some, called Michigan losers and cheaters, which was kind of a crystal ball prediction there. Talked about and agreed with the players, and the players agreed with him, that Franklin, and this is something that we've talked about on the podcast many times over, that one of Franklin's faults was not playing the young guys because they may make mistakes. And I think obviously that transcended this year with Kobe Howard, but obviously, you can go back to Micah Parsons, a Koa Farmer. Like, there's plenty of examples. You can go back in time and find those. Talked a little bit of trash about Gronowski, the Iowa quarterback, and how old he was. And then, talked a little bit about Tony Rojas and his injury and what that did to the defense. And Sean, in my opinion, I don't know if there was much said that was incorrect during all of that.
Yeah, Cory, it's one of those things. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It was the athletic director of your school should not be having a venting session with the team. It just shouldn't happen. And I get Pat Kraft, he was a football player, it doesn't matter. He's an athletic director. He's an administrator. He's not a coach. And that's one of my problems that I have with Pat Kraft, is sometimes I don't think he understands that he's not a coach. And I wish he did. I wish he would try to stay in his lane a little bit more. Now, what he said, was it generally correct? Sure. A lot of it was kind of apparent that we should have been playing the younger guys more. Yeah. That NIL wasn't handled really in the way that an Alabama and Ohio State handles it. Yeah. And that's why they fired James Franklin correctly. But I don't think it's a good idea for, especially when the players and you are, with some of the players, you're at odds with them. Because this is right in the middle of them advocating for Terry Smith. And I think people were under the impression correctly that Pat Kraft probably wasn't going to hire Terry Smith. So he knows that he's talking to an audience that might be a little adverse to him. And then it gets recorded. Now, do I blame him for it being recorded? No. That's, I assume, I don't want to say for sure, because we don't really know who recorded it. But if it was a player, and King Mack actually touched on this today when he met with the media, it does reflect the kind of leadership that we've had in that locker room, because he was talking to guys from the leadership council. You have to know that anything you say could be used against you in such a way. Now, do I think this is going to hurt Pat Kraft with the fans? No, because I think a lot of the fans will just go, yeah, rah, rah. But it's just not a great look. And you put bulletin board material up for Dan Lanning. And if there's anybody who's a master bulletin board material, it's Dan Lanning. Don't really care much about Michigan, especially with their mess right now, but you just have to be smarter. And sometimes I think he struggles with that and reading a room.
Yeah, I see what you're saying as far as going kind of behind enemy lines there. And I think being candid did help with the fans. I think, honestly, to a certain degree, that brought back some of his popularity from where it was in the middle of that search.
Well, can I say one thing too?
Yeah.
Did people really think Pat Kraft didn't care?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, my problem with Pat Kraft has never been he doesn't care. I think he absolutely cares. But my problem is the search kind of became a joke after a while. Now, we ended up landing the plane, but kind of like how Captain Sully landed the plane on the Hudson. But
hey, he had nowhere else to go, okay? He couldn't get to the other airports.
No, Sully, yeah, that was not Sully's fault. This one would be like if Pat Kraft released the birds into the turbines. And then still ended up landing the plane. But yeah, my problem's never been that he doesn't care enough.
Right. But at the same time, you know, at least he also understood too at the beginning of that, where he was like, if I don't get this right, I'm going to get fired, and then I'm never going to get another AD job again. Like, I thought that was pretty straightforward too. Yeah. And so I did respect that portion of it. Why we're kind of talking about this again for people that are like, this was weeks ago. Why are you guys just not bringing this up? Well, we didn't have a chance to talk about it because we hadn't spoken about it on the show. But then, as Shawn kind of mentioned, it was, I think Audrey asked the question to King Mack about the leaked audio. And he said that it shocked him and that it should never have been broadcasted. And then he said, quote, "The fact that someone in that room would jeopardize everyone, that's part of the selfishness and lack of leadership around the team that we have to fix." End quote. Shawn, I don't know about you, but that didn't sound like a guy. He says he hasn't made up his mind as far as the future. Talked highly about Penn State, and obviously he was a boomerang. Went to Penn State, went to Bama, came back to Penn State. But that doesn't sound like a guy who's leaving anytime soon.
No. And I think that's, like, if you want to look for a refreshing clip, that should be refreshing to you. King Mack has had a unique journey here. Like you said, coming to Penn State, going to Alabama, then coming back to Penn State. Next year, he's going to be a senior. It's crazy to think about that, but he is. And yeah, that's a guy that looks like he wants to have a leadership role in this locker room because he saw the leadership this year, and we have kind of skewered the leadership this year because I thought that Cory thought it was lacking, to say the least, especially the first 6 games of the season. So, but the problems run deeper than that because this recording happened, I believe it was right after the Nebraska game and right before the Nebraska game. So this was after James Franklin was already gone. Like, Terry Smith had already been the coach, but Terry can't go and change leadership of the team overnight. And neither could Matt Campbell. So that's why it wouldn't surprise me, guys, if you saw some upperclassmen move on that might be quote unquote big names, but Terry's going to be in Matt Campbell's ear saying, we should let that guy go. Or we should let the old
addition by subtraction, Shawn?
Addition by subtraction, yes.
And
it could be names that you're like, oh, I wish that guy was here. But that would be something that I'd be like, trust the staff on this one.
And Mac mentioned that Matt Campbell spoke with everybody, spoke to the entire team, spoke with everybody individually. And the message out of that was basically, if you don't want to be here, there's the door. And you and I both love that and respect that. But it also, I think, signals just how poor the culture had gotten. And Nate Bauer hit on this quite a bit on their show yesterday at Blue White Illustrated. But the approach that James Franklin had to running the program, and you and I talk about all the time that, yes, the locker room needs to be player-led. Like, good teams are coach-led, great teams are player-led. We agree with that. I think Franklin agrees with that. But when you don't have that, you can't just, okay, maybe they'll figure it out eventually. And I think that's sort of what happened. I think what we've learned as we've continued to kind of pull back the curtain on what was the 2025 season, it was that James Franklin, to what you've always said, Shawn, did not meddle enough in anything, was not meddling in the offensive play calling, was not telling Jim Knowles to get his head out of his ass, was not telling the upperclassmen, the leaders on the team, to straighten things out. He questionably wasn't doing anything. And now, is that probably fair? No, but it almost seemed way too hands off. Like he thought he was driving a Tesla when really he was driving something that needed, stick shift attention.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what Terry Smith had to do, especially those first few weeks, right? Was try to somewhat fix the culture. And when those players are there, it's not going to, you could really just put a temporary tire on. But you can't, it's not going to be something that you could drive from Scranton to State College with. So yeah, Franklin kind of just let it go. And when you just let a poor culture go, it's gonna catch up to you eventually. And really, Cory, I'm surprised that that's one of the things that did Franklin in, but it was undoubtedly. Like you ask any guy in there, like they're straight up saying it now that the culture wasn't what it needed to be.
It's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just like that.
For a year 12 coach, especially. It sound like, Shawn, like Franklin sold his soul and sold the program's identity for this season. And it was like, if anything sums up why James Franklin needed to be fired, it's the fact that if he just would have done what he had done in the previous 11 years, they're probably in the playoff right now at the bare minimum, right? If they would just have done what they typically did, 1-0 mindset, we're going to play our game and we're going to hope that it's good enough. And maybe we don't develop our passing game enough to beat the Ohio States of the world, but we're going to do our thing. And they're probably in the playoff right now, and they're probably hosting a playoff game. They probably still lose. They probably beat Oregon, but they still probably lose to Ohio State. But that just crazy to me, ironically, that they tried to, with everything on the line, they went away from what got them there. And that to me was very alarming to think, because I never thought James Franklin would do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the surprising game, right, wasn't Oregon. Did I think Penn State was going to beat Oregon? I did. But it was losing to UCLA, which nobody thought would happen. And then you follow it up with losing at home to Northwestern. And if you're doing the 1-0 mentality, you're going to win those games. You just are. And then you're going to beat Iowa. And really, Cory, we should have beat Indiana. That's one of the frustrating things. We had Indiana beat, and they make the catch of the year that I'm going to have to watch for the rest of my life. So, yeah, there's 10 wins right there. Because I don't think we're beating Ohio State. So, yeah, it's ironic that, like you said, what got him here is also what ended up failing him. And one of the things I've always felt so good about was the culture that James Franklin built, but it all just went away.
Lambda on YouTube says, if he was that hands-off culture-wise, I'm surprised it took this long for things to unravel. I'm guessing, obviously, during the building part, he was more hands-on. But then you should be able to expect the class of 2022 he should have had the ability to have a hands-off approach with this senior class and leadership.
Right.
To be fair to Franklin. Now, once he saw that it wasn't that way, that is when he needed to meddle. And that's what it kind of comes back to with everything with Franklin, is he would refuse to meddle. He refused to get involved or waited too long until it was too late. I mean, they should have known that the offense was not in a good spot after FIU. And they needed to flip things and kind of get back to what Terry Smith focused on.
They had to know in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, I am shocked if the first time they noticed there were problems was FIU. Right. I mean, you kind of saw it a little bit against Nevada. The offense overall played okay that day. I'm shocked they didn't see any of these problems in the summer.
Right.
So I would fully think that they would have. So it's just unbelievable how badly this whole season was effed up. But
hey, number one in Sickos.
Here we are. That's right, number
right.
one Sickos Committee, and we get a new and exciting coach. So we'll
Shout
see
out
what
to King
happens,
Mack.
right?
Really,
Yes,
just really
hopefully
like
King
what
stays,
King
and I
Mack
think he
said there.
will.
Another random note: long snapper Tyler Dzansky has accepted an invite to the East-West Shrine game, another kind of senior bowl there. So I wanted to give him a second of love there. Very steady Eddie there. You mentioned Terry Smith. Dom DeLuca was also interviewed today, and he talked about how massive it was to get Terry Smith on staff. He said, quote, Coach Smith has a great connection with a lot of kids on this team already. So anything he can do to help us lead to become a better person and better player, it's a great help to have him with us, end quote.
Is Dom back next year? I think he is, right?
I have no idea. I don't think so. He's been there forever, but maybe.
Hold on, I'll check it out now.
Okay. While you do that, I just also wanted to add one more thing before. I do want to talk about Ethan Grunkemeyer, but since we had spoke a little bit about the bowl games and the opt-outs, right now Vega, Zaki, Durant, and Singleton are the only opt-outs. Traber Pena, wide receiver Traber Pena, was also interviewed today on Zoom, and he's going to play in the bowl game. And I loved his kind of quote here. This is from Lyle Allenstein that got this for us. He said, quote, I decided I wanted to play because football isn't guaranteed. To have one more opportunity to play a college game, I feel like it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. End quote. What do you think about that, Sean?
I'll answer with the question. How much do you think he plays?
I think they will let people who want to play. I really do believe that. Like, if you want to play, you can play. I understand I think what you're hinting at is like, why aren't we using this as like a blue and white game?
No. What I'm saying is, think back to the Peach Bowl where Franklin was like, oh, everybody's going to play. And then nobody played, or people played like
we didn't get quotes like that. We didn't get quotes like that from, some of the defensive ends. I think it was Adisa Isaac, like that played for like half a game. Like nobody was saying those kind of quotes. So, I mean, I think it's completely up to them, but I don't think you say something like that and then just play a series.
Oh, yeah. I think they want to win this game. From everything that was said today, I know King Mack said the whole focus is on Clemson. And, yes and no. Some of that is, they have to say that. But I think that is generally the sentiment, that they're treating this like a game that you need to prepare for, which obviously it is. Like, I don't think they're looking at this as as a blue-white game or anything like that. They think they're looking at this as a chance to win a bowl game and finish with a winning record.
Yeah, and I've thought about that. Like, finishing with a winning record after losing to Northwestern seemed like a pipe dream. So I doesn't mean very much, but I think when you look back on that year, 20 years from now, you're going to be like, well, yeah, they end up going 7-6. I guess it wasn't all that bad. There were some good moments there.
Yeah, you want to have more Saturdays where you're happy than you're not, right? And that's why when we were winning like 10 games, they were like, oh, I'd rather just, it's the same thing as winning 4. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. I've been through both. It is not.
I want to talk QB. Ethan Grunkemeyer was also speaking today, and had not decided yet on what he plans to do. Focused sort of on this game, then making decisions after that. Said he has had a chance to meet with Matt Campbell and new offensive coordinator in waiting, Taylor Mauser. And he said, quote, I like the type of people they are, end quote, for whatever that's worth. There's an influx of quarterbacks in the portal already. Just in my opinion, look, if they go get Rocco Beck from Iowa State, I think if I was Ethan Grunkemeyer, his best opportunity, assuming that Matt Campbell and them won him, would be to stay at Penn State. Like, I get you could probably go somewhere else and start. Probably, I know I said on Monday Rutgers, but like I think you probably still have to compete. I do think if he stayed, that means that Matt Campbell and Taylor Moser think he could potentially start. And Rocco's only got 1 year. And he's had some problems with injuries. So, like, the biggest thing I hope people take away from the whole Drew Aller situation as a quarterback entering the portal is, like, you were literally one play away from playing. And I know that's lost sometimes and people want to be the guy. But Ethan Grunkemeyer's got a lot of ball left in his career. And if you have the opportunity to be one play away from being the quarterback at Penn State, and then a very, very good opportunity to be the starter after 1 year, I don't know if that's worth giving up, assuming, again, that they want him.
I think a lot of it could come down to money, too, because I'm going to assume Rocco Beck's going to be pretty expensive. Even though Matt Campbell was his coach, he's going to be getting a lot of attention from a lot of places in the country.
You think he's like B tier though, like Sam Levitt's like tier 1, and he's like 1A,
yes,
or 1B?
Yeah, like he's the next level down from Sam Levitt, especially coming off an injury. But that's going to attract a lot of money still, because there are a lot of desperate teams looking for a quarterback, and Rocco Beck is a proven quarterback. So part of it is going to be how much are we going to offer Grunk to be the backup for a year, as opposed to a team. And I don't know what his standard is, because, yeah, could he go to a MAC team and start 3 years? Sure. I don't think he really wants to do that, though. I think he wants to be a Power 4 quarterback. So what's the market out there for him? So I do anticipate Grunk will hit the portal, but he could still come back to Penn State. I think there are a lot of guys like that are going to test what their value is, but could end up circling right back around to Penn State.
Yeah, Lambda mentions, Grunk did say he has a couple agents working with him, and that does make you think that portal is imminent. So that's a good point there by Lambda. Okay. We got through a lot of those kind of conversations. Just an FYI, we will be having like a Pinstripe preview the day after Christmas. So we won't be breaking down the game today. We won't be back until the following Friday. So just a heads up on when you can expect the next episode. So if you've gobbled down both of these episodes, you're gonna have to suck it up for a couple of days over Christmas. Actually spend time with your kids. Because you're not going to get an episode from us until the following Friday heading into the weekend. But I do have a couple fan questions here. 2 of them, to be specific, from 2 long-term listeners. One from Einstein von Braun. Mister. Also, Einstein, just FYI, I will be making venison sloppy joes after the episode tonight, after the recording tonight. I got that idea from you. And so just wanted to give you a little shout out there that I took you up on that idea. So thank you very much for that. His question, if it's true that Danton Lynn is an option for defensive coordinator, how does he fit in with Dan Connor, Deion Barnes, and the personnel already on the roster? And then how does he fit in recruiting-wise? And could he take over the DMV area vacated by Ty Howe? I don't know on either of those things, just to be completely honest. So, Sean, take a whirl at it, would you?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to hire D'Anton Lynn. He has quietly done a good job at USC. They have improved significantly each year that he's been there. As far as and I know he didn't exactly ask it this way, like, what are the chances Penn State lands D'Anton Lynn? I'd actually be a little surprised if we did. And the reason I say that is I think USC I think they're going to be a playoff team next season. They just had Mayava back. They have the #1 recruiting class in the country. They usually always kill it in the portal. And I think USC goes to playoffs, and Penn State's going to be a bit of a rebuild. So as long as he's happy out there, I think it's going to be a tough pull. But could it happen? Sure. As far as how he's going to fit in, with us, I know they run a lot of odd man fronts, which is a little bit different than what Penn State has been accustomed to in the past few years. And as far as the DMV goes, he's not from there. He's from Texas. Obviously, has coached a lot in California, coached UCLA, and has coached at SC the last few years. But he has coached Baltimore Ravens before. Now, he never recruited anybody out of high school there. But that's really his only connection to the DMV. So I'm not and that's one of the things that we talked last episode about how Campbell is going to handle recruiting the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, because right now none of the coaches really stick out to me as, okay, this is going to be our ace in the hole in the DMV.
Yeah, we talked about if Penn State were to go ahead and get Elijah Brooks, running back coach that just left Virginia Tech, and how much that could potentially help. But you're right. We talked heavily about a lot of these guys, obviously recruits from Midwest. Clanton's got some California ties. Broomfield's got some Florida ties. A lot of Ohio ties, though, from when Matt Campbell and his staff were at Toledo. And so, and even Western Pennsylvania. And obviously you have Terry Smith as well. So Deion Barnes in Philly is like as far like east or even southeast, if you want to even call it southeast. Like that's really all they got right now. So they got a little bit of work to do. So I think that part of the question is definitely warranted. It is very odd to me how quiet the defensive coordinator conversation has been so far. I posed it to the boys just today. Like, would Terry Smith potentially, or have they not like officially given out Terry Smith's title because they want to kind of see what they can get and see where the chips may fall, and then have Terry Smith kind of fill in where they need him to fill in? I'm not putting odds on favor that Terry Smith becomes a defensive coordinator, but I'm very curious, like, what Matt Campbell's short list looks like, and how much longer we're going to have to wait, because I understand it not happening right away. But now it's kind of getting interesting, both for the running backs coach and for the defensive coordinator spot. So is he waiting to see how Anthony Poindexter does in the Pinstripe Bowl? Like, I find that hard to believe. But couldn't believe, by the way, Poindexter's been here since 2021 already. But I'd be very curious to kind of see how that all goes down, Sean.
Yeah, just like how Dex fits into all this. I'm sure he's going to be interviewed, because if you're looking for DMV connection is Anthony Poindexter, and he does have experience calling plays as well. So it wouldn't floor me if they ended up naming Dex as defensive coordinator, but I have a feeling they're going to name somebody else. And I'm not sure if it's definitely, I don't think it's definitely going to be the Anton led by any stretch. Like Cory said, it's been a quiet conversation, but he has been a name that came up. I was actually just listening to Audrey Snyder, John Sauber's podcast, and they were just talking about the same thing. So he's really been the only name that I've heard so far.
I'd be curious if anyone on chat has any ideas on YouTube, if you have any thoughts there, because yeah, it's been very oddly quiet. Maybe bring back Tom Allen, who knows. Friendly reminder for folks on YouTube, make sure you've liked the video and you're subscribed. Appreciate that. Mudbug says, how many recruits does the 2026 class ultimately end up with? And then he said, unfortunately for Grunk, I think Rocco Beck is the 2026 quarterback. Because I did ask, who do you think the Penn State quarterback will be in 2026? Sean, recruits 2026 class. So we mentioned Mr. Elijah Reeder, who has officially gotten out of his commitment to Iowa State. So that was nice. That made me look really smart the other day. So we'll see exactly where he ends up, but that's trending in the right direction. The coaches wasted no time in the last 36 hours re-offering a lot of the 2027 class, especially. So a lot of the, Khalil Taylor's, like, they've all been re-offered. A lot of them have been re-offered, as well as a lot of like 4- or 5-star guys that they liked previously when they were at Iowa State. So a lot of offers have been going out in the last 36 hours. They're wasting no time with that. The 2026 class is interesting because Iowa State seems to be pretty chill about releasing players from their commitment. But I would be curious to kind of see how that all ends up. You'd mentioned like where Michigan's at right now, and I guess I would still consider them part of the 2026 class if they haven't enrolled early. But theoretically, some of these 2026 guys may be coming over via the transfer portal. So if you want to call them 26 guys, I suppose you potentially could. But at that point, they would really be commits to another school and then a transfer to Penn State. Either way, I would expect them. I don't think it's crazy to say they get to roughly 15 players into, true freshman players into the building that had the 2026 technically class they're associated with.
That's what I'm expecting too. I'm expecting about 12 to 15, probably closer to 15 by the time this is all said and done.
It's just a weird how an event like technically gets called. Like, do you call a 2026 transfer? Are they part of the 2026 recruiting class? Or are they part of the 2026 transfer class at that point?
If yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I think if they're part of the 2026 class, I would just consider them part of the 2026 class because you're going to be freshmen anyway next year.
Right. That is funny though. Thank you for the questions. Again, Hardcore PSUFB on X is where we always ask questions, especially when we go to 2 episodes a week. We usually have time for some questions. So appreciate that. If you have questions live on YouTube, we will answer them as we can. And so forth there. All right, Shawn, we got through the questions. We got through Pat Kraft things. I wanted to give a shout out to Abdul Carter, who just had a crazy awesome day for the Giants. Kind of had his coming out party. He had 2 forced fumbles, like 6 tackles, just kind of destroyed it for what has been a pretty terrible season for the Giants. But shout out to Abdul Carter, who had a very good day.
Yes. Shout out Abdul. Has had an interesting rookie season. I do want to see him get his head out a little more straight. And I think if he can, he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. So no surprise there. Tyler Warren continues to kill it. And Chop Robinson has a new quarterback in Miami now as well. Did you see that today, Corey?
I did. Little Quinn Ewers, huh?
Indeed.
All right. I think we're pretty much wrapped up today. We talked about the class. I mean, again, the Matt Campbell's not wasting any time getting out there. So I think that we expect more recruiting news in the coming days. I think Reeder will eventually commit. I think there'll be more in the future as well. But got to be pretty excited about what Penn State's doing. Definitely feels like we've hit the valley and we're climbing back up. So really excited to see that. Shawn, what did I forget? What do we need to talk about before we get out of here?
I know we forgot something.
I think we did too.
It's kind of like leaving the garage door open, but you're on the plane.
One thing is I don't know if it was official yet, but last episode, I don't think it was. But Singleton and Drew Shelton have officially accepted invites to the Panini Senior Bowl as well. Don't know if that was official on Monday because that came out, I think, they came out yesterday. So I don't think we had mentioned that just yet.
Yep. No surprise there. Yeah, I think that really does it for covering the last few weeks, which have been the craziest few weeks. Feels like in Penn State football history.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys' patience as we were not live for a little bit there during hunting season. But we're back, and we will be back the following Friday. So, enjoy this time off. Hopefully, if you have it, enjoy and have a great Merry Christmas. And we will be back to preview the Pinstripe Bowl And if we have some sort of emergency or there's some shit, some breaking news, I will just say TikTok is a great place. If you're not following us on TikTok, I do sometimes go on there and we'll post a quick video. Did a lot of it for the coaching search. That's a good place if you want like instant stuff. I've been doing a little bit better job of posting like a 1 minute kind of thought on that. But so make sure you're following over there as well. But otherwise, I think that's it.
All right. Yeah, have a Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope Santa comes to wherever you are.
Awesome. Well, that's Shawn Kane. I'm Cory Lestochi. You have been watching and listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Until next week, Merry Christmas and good night.
Good night.